Tracy Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, Hogan spares the Purple Line. Montgomery County enacts earned sick and safe leave bill. The Washington Redskins lose again in the trademark case. Should Donald Trump be the face of the Republican Party? Will the death of a San Francisco woman cause a re-examination of Montgomery County's illegal immigrant sanctuary policy? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by education activist Cynthia Rubenstein, former chairman of the Montgomery County Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, a former Republican candidate for county council, Robin Uncapher, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. After months of speculation about the fate of the light rail Purple Line that will run between Bethesda and New Carrollton, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan announced that he would continue to support the construction of the sometimes controversial development, provided there were cuts made to reduce the estimated cost of the project. Cynthia, will Hogan's cuts ensure the building of the Purple Line, or is this just a shell game?
I don't think it's a shell game. There will be cuts, and some of them could include landscaping, trains coming less frequently, revisions to the stops, no artwork, things like that. But there's so much still at play. There's still a little fuzzy math with this project as to what cuts there will be made, and then you still have to deal with the legislature in each corresponding year while while this gets planned and built. So things could be restored.
So Mark, I mean, Hogan is known for not being in favor of this project, but yet again he did recommend that it go forward. But there's also a lawsuit pending from an environmental group seeking to halt the project altogether. What's the status of that? And is it going to be successful?
I don't know that it's successful. I'm not a fan of the Purple Line. I think the economics for it are questionable compared to other mass transit projects. But I particularly object, or I'm frustrated that this is kind of an environmental lawsuit that gives environmental lawsuits a bad name, is being used to obstruct the project. If it goes forward, it ought to go forward on its merits and not because of some little creature that somebody found.
Well, in Montgomery County, when the governor first announced this a couple of weeks ago, I talked to the county executive, and the county now has to ante a little more money, and he's working on it. And this week it was in the news that the county executive has asked each department to cut 2%, and that's going to because of the Wynn lawsuit that the county lost, and then also because the county didn't get some education funding from the governor, and that the county has to pony up more money. So our county is working on it, and this county is very hopeful. On the other side, on the Prince George's side, they're a little less verbal about where they're going to get their money.
This just sounds like a slow roll, that he really doesn't want to support the building of this. Do you have any insights on this, Rob?
Well, actually, I agree with Mark. To me, the whole thing is, first of all, it's going to get finished when? I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not a mass transit solution.
Again.
And nobody's paying attention
terms
to
of
the way
time.
people actually get to work. Do I want to go to New Carrollton? I don't think so.
But you can take it to Silver Spring.
Why would I want to take it to Silver Spring when I have a perfectly good bus that will take me there?
But
Well-
there are hordes of people from the Prince George's side of the route that want better transportation
And they could
west.
get better transportation next year, not 10 years from now, if they would fix the buses.
Well, and the other thing is that Montgomery County students can go to the University of Maryland because there's going to be stop right on the University of Maryland. I was on, as I'll say it again, a committee over 35 years ago to study this. It's a long time coming, and I say the ICC because it was studied for decades. And
Susan, you're going to have the last word.
it's going to get built.
It will get
Well,
built.
we'll see. My money is that it won't be built. Not in my lifetime, anyway. County Executive Isaiah Leggett signed into law last week the Earned Sick and Safe Leave Bill that mandates paid sick leave to employees working in the county. The bill requires nearly all county employers operating and doing business in Montgomery County to provide earned sick and safe leave at a rate of at least 1 hour for every 30 hours that an employee works in the county and up to 56 hours in a calendar year. The goal being, of course, the county council wants to reduce the number of employees who are forced to come to work when ill or send sick children to school or daycare because they have employees who have no paid leave. The law takes effect in October. Robin, is this just another regulation that makes it more difficult and expensive to run a business in Montgomery County?
Actually, it's not, but it's going to make it more difficult to get employed in Montgomery County. If you run a business, all you have to do is just hire more part-time people. What you'll find is that people will be hiring fewer, they'll be hiring through temp agencies more often, and they'll be hiring fewer full-time people because they won't be able to afford it. So in the end, it will make it more difficult to get employed in Montgomery County in a full-time job that has other benefits.
But Susan, Robin makes a very valid point about the complexities of the law, but also businesses may just decide they aren't going to send their employees into Montgomery County to meet the hourly demands. They'll send them to Prince George's County. They'll send them to Montgomery County. They'll send them to Fairfax County.
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, Casey, to get a 9-0 vote on the county council, they made some changes. The first change is it's not going to start till October of next year, 2016. And when you look at this issue, there are 100,000 people in this county who don't have any sick leave. And so when you look at that, the changes that they made, for instance, if you have 5 employees or less, all you have to guarantee them is 4 paid days and 3 unpaid days. So it's a need that's there. I mean, what does a parent do if they have a sick child? I mean, Nancy Navarro anecdotally joked about parents telling her, I gave my child Tylenol this morning and sent him to school because I don't have anybody to take care of them. So
that will still happen. That will continue to happen.
But 100,000 people with no sick leave. So and it's also safe leave in that if there are some court issues in terms that you can deal with that also if there's abuse or something. So I think it's a minor fix. And
I think it's just good public policy, and it's also for people who are ill with a communicable disease. It's good health policy.
I think it all sounds great in the abstract, but it always seems to me that it's the small business guy who has 2 to 3 employees or 4 employees that has to bear the brunt of this. That it's an additional cost to them, and it makes running their business and more expensive and more difficult.
Well,
and
I'm
you know
one
what?
of those
that
small
year,
businesses.
That year of time they're fitting in gives everybody time to move the job somewhere else, or gives everybody time to make the jobs part-time jobs so that you don't have to do that.
I'm one of those small businesses running a small nonprofit, and I have 2 employees, including I'm an employee as well. And the year will give us time to adjust so that we can allow that. But I don't want my assistants coming to work sick.
But they're still going to.
No, they won't. No, they won't. They'll be free. They'll feel free, and they won't be constrained by.
But did you offer them sick time now?
No, we don't. We do not.
To me, it
But we
has
will.
to do
We're
with
gonna
the
have to- we're
corporate
gonna have-
culture of
we're
the
gonna have to keep
organization,
moving.
not with the law.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's just another feel-good message that the county council sending out that they're anti-business. This week, a second federal court ruled that the Patent and Trademark Office was authorized to cancel the trademark for the Washington Redskins football team after it was determined that the name was derogatory and may disparage a substantial composite of Native Americans. Mark, is this the last we will see of this issue, and is the court ruling correct?
Apparently, it's not the last that we'll see of it because it's going to get appealed. I think the court ruling's wrong. The term Redskins, the name Redskins, was never intended to be disparaging. It's only a small group that has decided that it's disparaging. It's a trademark that's been in existence for decades, and in fact was in existence for decades before it was even challenged for the first time. So I think you got to look to what the intent is of the trademark as opposed to the meaning that is being attached to it by an extremely small minority of people.
Well, Robin, this lawsuit has actually been going on for 20 years. Is it time that the Washington football team change its name?
I think it was time 20 years ago. I disagree with my husband entirely on this one. I think that people should be called by whatever they want to be called by. I've never heard of a Native American who wanted to be called a Redskin. Whether or not they meant it to be disparaging is beside the point. People should be called by what they would like to be called.
Okay.
And I just learned this week, and I didn't know it before, in Massachusetts, this came about, the name Redskin, because there were bounties for people to, in essence, cut the hair off of Indians, and they got a bounty. This was a long time ago, but so that sense.
Really?
Yes.
They didn't do that last year?
No. They got a bounty for coming, just like in Minnesota, you get it for taking the
I mean,
paws of a
body,
gopher.
for a body count?
For the
Well, the Indians weren't doing the same thing to
Yes,
the
but,
white guys out
but
there.
They were
remember,
doing it to
they
each
were here
other.
first, and they had a lot of
okay.
reasons to want to be upset with the white man.
They were doing it to each other. It was a
Yes,
traditional
but
Indian
it is
warrior.
not, and I will say it again, where I come from, Minnesota, we have a lot of Native Americans. You use that phrase, and you are, you're in big trouble. It is a disparaging name. And when the original ruling came about,
You believe it's a disparaging
no,
name.
30% of the people feel that it's a disparaging statement. You cannot get this kind of agreement with the Patent and Trade Office. Back then, when it happened, 30% did feel it was a negative term, but they conveniently closed their eyes. Now it's around 30%. It's a low threshold, but at least 30% of the people feel it's disparaging. There are plenty of names out there. Get on with it, Dan Snyder.
But look, you got to take into account, the majority opinion here. The majority opinion is that it is not a disparaging name, and the majority.
Oh,
opinion
I think that's not true anymore.
The majority
I
of
don't think
who?
that's true any
Yeah,
longer.
the majority, even in this town, I think the majority of people now believe it is disparaging and it's time to go.
None of us have any statistics or facts. I just know when I drive around town, almost every car has a Redskins symbol on it. They got a bumper sticker.
Are they Native Americans?
No, they're not.
Okay,
Well,
okay,
that's
there
it
you
all right
go.
there.
Oh, so Native Americans are the only ones who have
People
a voice?
should-
They're the only ones who have a voice on this topic?
People should,
No.
when
But
you
this-
ask people what they want to be called, it's not Redskins.
That's true, but that's creating a heckler's veto, that anyone who's got an objection can stop the speech of somebody else.
I don't like
know.
black and white dresses, so I don't want Susan on the program?
Well, she has a black and white dress too, so it's the two of us.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're not going to solve this here, and the court's not going to solve it for another 20 years. When we come back from the short break, should Donald Trump be the face of the Republican Party? In the light of the death of Catherine Steinle, should the county re-examine its illegal immigrant sanctuary policy? Stay tuned. And welcome back. Once considered a trifling candidate, real estate developer and TV personality Donald Trump has been the center of the nation's political attention since his announcement speech that he was seeking the Republican presidential nomination. Trump, who's known for being brash and outspoken, managed to insult most of the nation in his speech, but mostly he offended the Hispanic immigrant community with his ill-considered remarks about illegal immigration. Mark, how worried are you that Trump will be the face of your party?
Not very. I think one of the things that this underscores is the fact that he's running against two Hispanics and one front runner who has an Hispanic wife, in fact, as well as an African American, several of whom are doing much better in the polls than Donald Trump is. My expectation is that this is a flash in the pan. We've seen these before a year before the election, and Donald Trump will be back in real estate in a short time.
Well, but doesn't it worry you that the immigration issue, which is really what he's tapped into,
Right.
is kind of something that there's a lot of anger about, and the Republican Party is reflective of that anger?
Well, I think there's a broad frustration with immigration policies generally, and we can talk about that. One of the things that's frustrating about Trump is that he's really, other than his wall that he wants to build because he's a builder, And
Mexico will pay for it.
Mexico will pay for. He really doesn't have solutions for any kind of reform.
No, but when you listen to him, though, however, I mean, he taps into an interest that America is being pushed around, that it's being taken advantage of by foreign countries and by others, and that America is not standing strong in the world. That is a sentiment that is expressed and shared by many Americans, and he's tapping into this frustration and anger.
There's no question that he is tapping into a populist sentiment. I think this is a time in the cycle when people are kind of responding viscerally. But I would point out that there are multiple other candidates. I mean, the percentage that he has is small, but it's magnified by the number of candidates we have. There's a variety of other approaches that are available in the race, very strong candidates who I think will get much more consideration than Donald Trump will ever get.
Cynthia, I'm going to go to you. Now, I was going to ask you the question, should Trump be pilloried for his comments? But the fact is that we have data and security breaches by the Chinese, where 20 million federal workers had their data exposed. I mean, isn't he tapping into an element of unrest and dissatisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to tap into paranoia. That's what he's trying to tap in, and he is being successful with a certain sector of the Republican electorate. But what I want to go back to the pillorying of Donald Trump. He should be pilloried for a little bit, and then he should be ignored. He should not have photo ops. People shouldn't listen to him. People shouldn't write about what he says, because he's all bombast and he's all look at me, look at me. He's not a serious politician. He just likes to be on stage, and he likes to hear himself speak, and he likes to stir things up.
And it's not just Republicans. I mean, Dianne Feinstein came out for the wall. I mean, it's a huge distraction from real issues, which are, as you say, the Chinese are bombarding us. So why are we talking about this stupid issue? Actually, the best thing I thought the Washington Post did was interview a number of employees who are working for Trump's subcontractor, many of whom appear to be undocumented and weren't too happy with Trump.
But his empire is being whittled away, though. I mean, people are withdrawing from him. The LPGA, Macy's, the two chefs who were going to have restaurants in his office here have dropped out. I mean, he is losing a little.
Wait, you say that, but none of these have been contested yet. And the one thing that I think you'll see from Trump is that anybody who has a contract with him that tries to get out of it, he's going to sue the heck out of them over these issues.
I wish him luck, though, in suing entities like NBC, though. I think he doesn't have a leg to stand on.
Unless there's a moral clause in his contract, he does have a leg to stand on.
I want to see that immigration raid on his.
This deals with the first freedom of speech issue. He has a freedom of speech right to say anything stupid that he wants to. I found his comments incredibly stupid and offensive, but he has the right to say them.
When it comes to television, though, because he is a presidential candidate, I think you can do certain things because of the equal access to everybody who is the candidate.
Equal access is no longer in force. It hasn't been in force.
No, but you can't just give someone a lot of TV
you can.
time.
Now you can. Yes, you can.
The question goes back to what we were asking Cynthia, which is, should he be punished for what he said? That's the issue. Should he be punished, or does he have a free speech right to say it?
I like Cynthia's suggestion that he should be ignored, and I think part of what all these incidents of dropping him and what have you is doing is sort of feeding into, now that he's the victim, he should be ignored.
Well, wait a minute. I want to go into the next segment, because it also ties into some of the popularity of what is Trump is riding as well, because right after the attacks on Donald Trump were being calculated, there was a tragedy that occurred in San Francisco over Independence Day weekend when a 32-year-old woman, Catherine Steinle, was killed by a felon illegal immigrant who had been deported 5 times from the United States, who had been held in jail on a felony conviction, and rather than being delivered over to immigration officials, the sheriff released him because that's the policy in San Francisco. So there's this anger about the immigration policy that is out there. Trump is tapping into it. And Susan, does this timing of the attack bolster his claims that the immigration policy and problem is out of control?
We've all said that, but Congress doesn't have the ability to, they're not willing to do anything. And this is a national...
It's not just Congress, it's an executive problem as well.
No, but if he has done some executive orders and the Republicans have pillared him because he's not supposed to do that.
not enforcing the law,
But this is feeding into an idea that immigrants are running around murdering people, and that's just not
And
the
they're
case.
not. The Pew Trust has shown that new immigrants commit less crime.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, the statistics that I'm hearing are that 1/3 of our federal prisons are filled with illegal immigrants who are felons.
That's nonsense.
And that's not
I don't
true.
think that's true.
Those are
The
Donald Trump's
no,
figures.
But the
Yeah.
conundrum of immigration reform is that if you want comprehensive reform, you also have to support enforcement. You won't get comprehensive reform if people don't believe that the laws are followed. And part of the problem now is, whether it's Montgomery County or San Francisco or the federal government, is there has been a reluctance and unwillingness to follow the law on the enforcement side.
Look, we had a case in 2008 where an illegal immigrant who was a felon was released and then committed a murder.
Here in Montgomery County.
Here in Montgomery County. So this may seem isolated, but it is a real fact. The populace, the people, have a right to be protected from
now-
dangerous
Yes,
individuals.
and during the Obama administration.
I'm going to quote one of your heroes, Jamie Raskin, who was interviewed just this morning on WMAL, and he was quoted as saying, if someone has committed a deportable offense, they ought to be deported. They ought to be turned over to immigration and deported.
But now,
and that's
they
what we're
have
talking
been
about.
during the Obama administration. More have been
than under
deported
any other
than
president.
under
And
any
in
other
preparation
president.
for today, I reached out to Chief Manger, and this is what he said, because there are illusions that Montgomery is a sanctuary, and it's not. This is what he said. Montgomery County is not a sanctuary jurisdiction. While we do not honor ICE detainers, federal court decisions led us to this policy. We do work cooperatively with ICE if they have a warrant or other court order issued
But
by
that's
a
the
judge.
same issue as San Francisco.
No, let me
Susan.
finish. The
Because
Department
the-
of Corrections will also notify ICE of the release date of someone we have in our jail for criminal offenses in Montgomery
if they
County.
have a warrant.
No, if they're in our jail, so they can pick them up. Sanctuary cities like San Francisco will not notify ICE.
We're threading the needle here. They're not fully a sanctuary city, but they're not fully cooperating by sharing all the arrest information.
They do, but you know
No,
what
no,
they
no, they
don't
don't.
do?
Not
They
all.
don't
Only
enforce immigration. That's not their job, in the sense they don't pick up immigration
Susan,
violations.
what they're saying, and Mark is absolutely correct. We're trying to define what is here, because they say they will not, unless ICE has a warrant, turn them over.
But they feel that it is not their job to enforce immigration, so they don't ask about immigration.
Nobody's asking them to do that. That's beside the point. The point is, when somebody is arrested for a misdemeanor or a felony, whether or not they share that information
do
with
share it.
not for misdemeanors.
For just misdemeanors.
Well, this is an issue, and we see in the national debate and in our debate, it's a hot topic over immigration and the rights of the ordinary citizens to be protected. Stay tuned for Parting Shots when we come back from the short break. And welcome back. Now with Parting Shots, Mark Uncapher.
This week, the people of South Carolina did the right thing and decided to take the Confederate flag down from the Capitol grounds. I just thought I'd point out that here in Montgomery County, on the grounds of our county courthouse, there is a Confederate monument that has been there for over a century, and it continues to stand there. It is a reminder of Montgomery County's history, which was not always quite so good.
Thank you, Mark. Cynthia Rubenstein, your Parting Shot.
Okay, well, one of my childhood crushes died today, Omar Sharif. When I was a toddler and saw him in, you believe that one, in Lawrence of Arabia, and then Dr. Zhivago, and then Funny Girl. major heartthrob. So Omar Sharif, you hunk, may you rest in peace.
Thank you. Susan Heltemes, your parting shot.
First, happy birthday, Sid Kramer. He's 90 years old. And finally, I want to add on to Mark's congratulations to Jenny Horn, the descendant of Jefferson Davis, who was the one who turned the conversation in South Carolina. Go women. She did it.
Rob and Uncapher, your parting shot real quick.
NBC News reported this week that heroin use is up 66%, and it is up in high schools. It is up in high schools in Montgomery County. I guarantee you more young people have died in Montgomery County of heroin in the last year than died of immigrants killing them. This is an issue that the police are not on top of and should be.
Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. I want to thank the audience for being here. For Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. We're running out of time. I'm running out of words. I'm Casey Aiken. Good night.